Oh, wonderful. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Happy Tuesday. My name is Dr. Stacy Holweger, and I am so excited to be interviewing another doctor this evening. Oh my gosh, do I have a treat for you all. We have got a lot of amazing information that's going to be shared tonight about Lifewave, X39, stem cell activation patch, and the other patches as well too. And then of course, as always, I will be allowing you to ask your own questions in the chat. Type them in there and I'll be filtering through and asking Dr. Mario those questions. So before I get started, I do want to share our disclaimer. So obviously I am not your doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I do have a PhD in integrative medicine and a PhD in functional medicine. I am joined by Dr. Mario Lopez, who is a medical doctor, a cardiologist, but he's not your doctor. And so he's not going to make any recommendations or claim to treat or cure or diagnose anything that's going on with you. If you do have any questions in regards to your health, please get back with your healthcare practitioner, your doctor that oversees what's going on with you, and ask them. The information we're sharing tonight is for informational purposes only. We will be sharing some websites and places for you to get more information too. So with that, I'm going to read Dr. Mario's, this is a brief bio. So when I asked Dr. Mario for his bio last month, he was on the doctor panel with me in Tampa at our event. He said, oh, I'll have my assistant send you an email real quick. So I get the email, it was 47 pages long. 47 pages of his bio. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I don't have time to shrink this down into a quick little blurb here to share on stage. But this man's credentials are off the charts. Like I did read through it and I'm like, I don't even know what these things are. I don't even know what all this means, but I'm super impressed. So if I ever need a cardiologist when I'm like 200 years old, you know, because we're all going to live to be at least 200 with these patches, right? I'm definitely going to go see Dr. Mario because he'll still be around too. So I'm going to read you the shortened bio version of Dr. Mario here. So Dr. Mario Lopez, he did his college and pre-med in Madrid, Spain, and he just actually got back from Madrid this past weekend. And he went to med school in the Dominican Republic. He did his post-grad training in internal medicine and cardiology between New Jersey and Philadelphia. He has a practice and he has been practicing interventional cardiology and most recently years of clinical cardiology in Port Charlotte for the past 37 years. So he is literally just an hour south of myself. And so I am so excited you're here, Dr. Mario. So grateful for you taking the time out of your evening, out of your busy work schedule to be here with us to share. And so I'd love to start off. We've got over 200 people that are on here tonight. I would love for you to share, you know, you've been utilizing Lifewave patches yourself personally. Talk to us a little bit about how you got started with these patches, kind of the backstory. I know Colonel Tom's on here and I know he would love to hear that story as well too. If you could share how you got started. I think it was back in December, correct? We had dinner in December, so it must have been November, December.
Correct. Number one, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you and all of you and share some information. And so basically it was after we got hit with Hurricane Ian that I saw a patient in the office, Mr. Thomas Block, Colonel Block, who came to the office and I had not seen him for a while. And I couldn't see the change in this man in just 8 months. So I asked him what he was doing, and he explained to me that he had lost 35, 40 pounds. He was more active. He was exercising. He felt great. He had a smile from ear to ear, and he was just a complete different person. So I asked him what he was doing, and he told me that he was using the X39 patch. So I told him about things that I was suffering from, and he told me, here, I'm going to give you 3 patches for you to use. And I said, well, so where do I put it? And he said, just use it where you hurt the most. And I used the patch on my left hip, which is my critical spot in my body at this point. And I could not believe that later that evening, I wasn't even thinking about my hip anymore. And I was actually not even thinking about the fact that I wasn't limping. So I kind of, the first day I said, you know something, this is just a coincidence. There's no way that this can happen. So I used it on, that was on a Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and by 6 o'clock I had no pain. or very little pain, very little discomfort, I should say. Then on Saturday, I used it again, and the effects were even better. So I said, this is not a coincidence. So I went ahead and called Tom, and I said, you need to get me in touch with these patches and how to order them and what to do with them. And the rest is history. And the first thing that I really thought about is that if they help me, I cannot wait to use it on my patients and recommend it to my patients, because it doesn't matter that I'm a cardiologist, doesn't matter that I do a different type of medicine, doesn't do what I do. At the end of the day, each physician is here to help patients, no matter what your specialty may be. And if we can help the patients to heal, to feel better, to be more mobile, which is one of the things that we as physicians, as cardiologists need, which is less pain, less stress, more mobility, more exercise. This is part of my daily routine. So thank you, Lifewave. Thank you, Dr. Stacy. Thank you, Colonel Tom Block, for introducing me to these patches. And of course, thank you, Sharon Arnold, for being my angel and helping me with all the ordering of the patches and distribution of them to all my patients. Thank you so much to all of you. And so that's it. That's how I started.
So Dr. Mario, can you tell us, because obviously I know a little bit more about your testimonial. So you said with all the things you were dealing with, so you had hip pain. And I remember when we had dinner that night in December, you were talking about many different things. So what was going on with you personally? Because you're obviously in great shape. You take care of yourself, you do what you're telling your patients to do for healthy practices, healthy lifestyle, healthy heart, things like that. So tell me what was going on with you that you felt like these patches would benefit you.
Well, the first thing that you have to realize is that the reason why I had to stop interventional cardiology was because I was suffering severely from arthritis all the way from my cervical spine to my lumbar spine, from carpal tunnel syndrome, from neuropathy all the way down my arms, to the point that it really became impossible for me to do procedures in a safely manner. So they changed my life. I was limping. I was uncomfortable sitting or standing. I couldn't work. I was already, I don't know how many shoes I bought to see if I could change the way I walked, and nothing was helping. And what really had changed my life were the patches. And the first one that I started using was the X39. And then I read about the literature on the rest of them, and I started using some of them for whatever I really needed to address. But the fact is that the main patch has been the X39, and that is like the king of the hill, as I call it.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, because I know they were asking. So tell us a little bit more about X39. Like, how does that work? You said it's the king of the hill. It's definitely, we call that the mothership, or, the master patch. How does it work? If you were to describe this to someone that doesn't even know, we've got a lot of guests on here tonight, so I'm sure they would love to hear how that happens.
So basically the technology is amazing. It sounds like almost like unbelievable. Because as you all know, our body emits energy in the way of a short wave red light, infrared light. So basically what the patches do is that this little thing like this that looks like a band-aid is, that one, exactly right. That little core has a solution of water, sugar, minerals, amino acids, and organic compounds that when they get in touch with the heat of the body, basically they become like a mirror. They become crystallized and start reflecting your own energy back into your body through the skin. And they use a complex chemical pathways using the cytochrome system. And then that cytochrome system goes and targets the copper peptides, GHK, and the GHK then starts working on the genes, making them putting them at a younger stage. And then the genes targets the stem cells and regenerates 30% of them and puts them to work. By the time I am already 67, it's gonna be 67 years old. By the time we hit 60, we lose the majority of the stem cells. and or there's a lot of them that are dormant. So the X39 and the whole peptide system activates them and puts them to work, which is what we need. I have given the patients in their 80s and 90s these patches, and they work. They certainly work. So anyway, that's
perfect. That's a great explanation.
That's in a nutshell what how the X39 works, and all the benefits that you derive out of that is multiple. Everybody is different. Everybody has some initial benefits and relief in pain and inflammation and better sleep, more energy, more endurance. I mean, these are things that I hear all the time in the short run. I have been using the patches for other reasons, the same patch, the X39, for other reasons. And I tell the patients, you know, all I can, you're using all kinds of medical medications for your problem, and you have had this other type of procedure. There's nothing else that is working for you. Why don't we try this? Give it a try for about 3 months, 6 months, depending on the condition that they have, and see if it helps. And unbelievably, a lot of these patients are helped with the X39. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, I want to say something, if we can, I'm sure Laura can do this or somebody on here. There's a website, reverseagingwithghk.com. And that website is where David really started his research. Dr. Lauren Picard, who has done over 50 years of clinical studies and research in the benefits of elevating the peptide GHKCU copper peptide, which is what Dr. Mario mentioned, that this patch elevates, right? The low level of infrared light reflected back elevates GHKCU, but that peptide's responsible for a lot of things, right? A lot when you look at anti-aging, reverse aging, everything from asthma and allergies to prostate, breast, and colon cancer on his website, right? Not the patches, but when you look at Dr. Lauren Picard's 50 years of research and clinical studies. And so that's where David started his research 15 years ago with, like, if we can figure out a way to elevate our own GHK, and one of those genes that the peptide GHK resets is P63, which mobilizes stem cells. You heard Dr. Mario talk about stem cells are dormant, right? Or they become inactive or die away as we age. And so this patch elevates your GHK, elevates your body's own stem cell production, activates them and mobilizes them again, resetting back a third of your genes to their young, youthful, healthy state. So Dr. Mario, they're asking, does the placement of the patch matter? Because you said you put yours right on your hip, and they want to know, because our stem cells are, you know, throughout our entire body, do you target a problem area? Would that be where you'd put the patch? With the patch, if you put the patch on your hip, do your stem cells go to your hip? Is this like a stem cell injection, or is it working systemically throughout the entire body? And, you know, does placement really matter?
Well, that's a great question. So basically, if you read the studies that were done with the Lifewave patches, the X39, there were mainly two spots that they were used. One of them at the C7 level in the neck, behind the neck, where the hump is at, and the other place would be below the belly button. Ultimately, like for example, one of the questions that I just saw, if you use it for memory and you don't have any other ailment or any other spot in your body that hurts you or that you want to target, then I will use it in the back of the neck at the C7 level. But ultimately, if you put it anywhere in your body, it will work, because ultimately the X39 will activate the stem cells, and they will go wherever they are needed. Remember, the stem cells were born with millions of them, and they are the ones in charge of being pluripotential, which means they can divide and multiply into different organs, and they're in charge of repair. And that's why it's so easy when we're young to fall down and scratch a leg or have a bruise or something, and then be back on your feet a couple of days later or the next day. And when we get to be 60 or older, then it takes a little bit longer. So if we could have more stem cells active, it really doesn't matter where you activate it. It has a systemic effect. So I think ultimately it doesn't matter where you put your patch. If you're working for the memory, You put it on your neck or below the belly button. I would put it on the neck. It's closer to closer to the brain. And I tell you, I've seen some amazing results with that, and including myself. I mean, it's amazing what the X39 has done for the speed of recovery of or recollection of events and memory, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, a lot of times I even surprise myself of questions that are being asked to me about something that I haven't even reviewed or touched or even been asked in years, and yet this thing just comes up like I just read it. You know, it's just amazing.
Well, you know, when you look at the brain studies that have been done with the X39, we can see dramatic improvements in the coherence in the brain, in the cognition of the brain, in the memory, right? The hippocampus. We can see the impacts in the pituitary and the prefrontal cortex, and all of that is on startx39now.com. You can see all the clinical studies. So we do see huge improvements in the brain with the X39. It actually helps to rewire, refire, form new neural networks, new neural pathways. And so you can see emotional and mental benefits as well as physical benefits in the body, but we only have one brain, right? And I love what Dr. Don said. He's like, you can't see it. You can't see it in there, but you know it's in there. So, you can't see what's in the patch, but you know it's in there. It's kind of the same thing. But knowing that this patch is huge for your brain and your cognition, I think so many people deal with brain fog. They deal with memory loss. Just like you said, now you're recalling things like this, right? Your executive faculties have definitely, been improved from this technology. You just don't really realize how kind of far down things slide down that slope, that slippery slope of degeneration, until you start to do something that causes regeneration and repair. So they were asking also about the combination, if we can kind of just stay on the brain, because this is heart as well too, right? When we look at carnosine. So I know carnosine is a patch you used pretty early on as well. So can you talk just a little bit about carnosine with the heart and with the brain, and why that would be a great one to use in addition to the X39?
Yes, I remember especially with the Lifewave patches in technology and research, we have found that we know that the carnosine becomes carnitine, which is one of the main compounds, to say it one way, of the heart muscle. But carnosine also improves brain function, and it also improves endothelial function as well. How can we improve our levels of carnosine? Well, there's you can improve through improving the carnosine through poultry, meat, soybeans, supplemental, and all these things will give you it reduce inflammation and also protect and improve your telomere. So there's a great possibility that these carnosine patches also, what we know, that could lengthen your telomere, protect it, and give you a longer life as well.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's piggyback off of that, because carnosine is, for me, like, carnosine is a must. It's an absolute must for what it does for the brain, balancing left brain, right brain hemisphere, cognition, communication. But let's talk about X39 and 40. X39 and 49. How would you talk about those?
Okay, so they're both of them use the same pathway of stimulating the peptide. The X49 stimulates the copper AHK peptide, where there's only substitution of one amino acid in the compound. So it completely, just the one change in the amino acid changes completely the whole effect. So the X49 does not stimulate stem cell production, but it's excellent for endothelial protection, for muscle regrowth and muscle endurance. I mean, they have done studies where they have seen more endurance and muscle growth even in middle age and to people in their 60s and whatnot. So they complement each other in the fact that both of them not only target the entire body, but X49 also enhances the effects of the X39. So they complement each other very nicely.
Wonderful. And then what would you say, I mean, because obviously, like you said, they're different peptides. What would you say about the heart with X39, 49? Would you think that that would be a good combination? I mean, we know with X39, every 6 weeks, we can see improvements in the vascular system functioning about 8 weeks younger. Obviously, we've talked about, you and I have heart rate variability, but what would you recommend? Would you think the 49 would be also great for the cardiovascular system?
Oh, of course. I mean, it protects the endothelium. The endothelium is the inner lining of the blood vessels, of the arteries.
Okay,
And that's one of the things that we need to, we in cardiology try to accomplish with medicines and with diet and with exercise and lowering blood sugar and controlling hypertension, which is endothelial protection. And that's one of the attributes of the X49 that protects the endothelium. So yes, it's for heart. This is a wonderful thing, like the carnosine anyway, all of them improve the endothelial function. The EON patch. That's what I wanted to say. The EON patch also lowers fibrinogen, which is responsible for endothelial damage and endothelial inflammation, and reduce the EON patch also reduces inflammation as well. Yeah. So they all of them combine and hopefully have a synergistic effect for the body.
So yes,
they all could be used for cardiology benefits, besides from, as David Smith and as we all preach, which is, please, let's live a healthy life. Mm-hmm. Let's not pretend that medications or the patches or supplements are going to cure everything in the world. They do help, but it has to start with ourselves. Like Dr. Stacy said, I take care of myself. I exercise. I watch my weight. I watch what I eat. So the ball game is on my court 100% of the time. Everything else that you do on top of that is in addition, and it will hopefully will prolong your life and give you a better quality of life for as long as your telomeres last.
As long as your telomeres last. They're going to start researching telomeres now. You're right. Carnosine definitely protects your telomeres. If you just Google carnosine as a nutrient, you'll find it has massive benefits, right? There's been decades of years of clinical studies on carnosine as a nutrient. So thank you for that, because it is true. We do have to put our health in our own hands. At the end of the day, the things we eat, the lifestyle we have, the practices we do or don't do are your starting point, right? That is end all be all right there. You have to do these things if you want to live a long, healthy life. And the patches are a beautiful complement to that. So someone is asking, would you recommend putting the heart or the patches over the heart, or does that really matter?
It's interesting. I'm not really sure if that really matters very much. I think for patients who may want to use, for example, the carnosine patch for a specific cardiac issue, like an arrhythmia or something, they could use it over the heart. I mean, it's being used. There's testimonials. The using the carnosine patch over the heart could help, as well as the X39 as well. All I can tell you that personally, because of my lifestyle and work load and so on, that I've had some skipped heartbeats throughout the years. Well, I barely have any skipped heartbeats at all anymore. And I don't use, the only patch that I use close to the heart is the carnosine patch. The most of the times I use in the lower sternal region, right by this lower part of the sternum. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah, and that is one of the locations, if you look in your instruction booklet too. Every patch has its own instruction booklet that'll tell you where to apply them. So people are asking about the energy enhancer. Do you remember when you and I did the East Meets West with Dr. Pamela, the acupuncture doctor? And they're asking about energy enhancer, specifically on the pericardium location. So what would you recommend or say to that for any of the heart benefits?
So I'm going to tell you something. As I said earlier, we are all different. Our bodies are all different. I mean, we may look alike, we may look human, but our bodies behave differently. So whether I think you need to try it. Use the energy enhancers. You can try at the wrist level. You can try below the knee. You can try them in your ankle, below your ankle, at different acupuncture spots. But ultimately, you use them you use them wherever you think they work the best. Honestly, I can tell you one spot that they work great for me, which is in both shoulders.
Yeah.
I put them in the shoulders. Sometimes I put them up here in the chest, and they work. And you know the other thing that happens with the energy patches, with the energy enhancers, they relieve discomfort. They relieve discomfort. So, like for example, when I work out, and again, it's not like I push heavy weights, but I do work out with my arms and my shoulders. Sometimes they may get some strain, and of course, you sometimes sprain the rotator cuff, and I have been using the energy patches sometimes just for energy, but I decided to put them in the shoulders, and not only they gave me more energy than at the wrist level. But they also relieve the pain. So I think it's a matter of everybody finding the spot in the body where these patches may work for you. I think the X39, X49, it really doesn't matter. You address whatever issue you want to address in your body. Like for example, the ice wave patches. I think that you need to use them wherever you have more pain and more inflammation. And I personally use the ice wave patches in my lower back, in my lumbar spine, and I have already a few spots that I can move and change the polarity. Like for example, some patients may have asked me, "Hey, can I change the darker patch to the right and the white patch to the left, or the other way around?" And I said, "Yeah, you can move them around. You can either put them the white patch in the center, and then the other one you can move them around like a clock, and find out which position works better." So I think everybody needs to investigate their own body and see where the patches work the best.
I love that. Body awareness. So the patches, like Dr. Morrow was talking about, come with an instruction booklet. But like he said, he's playing around with them. He's moving in different spots to see how his body reacts and responds. So we do have clinical studies. So the patches were done on specific locations. This just happens to be our energy enhancer, right? But each patch has its own instruction booklet that has suggested or recommended spots based on the studies. But like he said, play around with them, move them around and see what works best for you. So Dr. Morrow, we have a little bit more of a technical question. So I'm going to ask you this on a physiological type of a question. So how does the X39 stimulate stem cells specific to this GHKCU pathway, peptide pathway, and not interfere in any other physiological pathway that may trigger some other type of potential, have a negative impact on any type of, other issues in a negative way? So how does that peptide, how does it stimulate the stem cells specific to that and not interfere with anything else on a physiological pathway? How would you describe that as a doctor that understands all of that inside of the body?
Okay, so I think I'm taking the question in a few different ways. Number one, the copper GHK peptide gets stimulated through the cytochrome system. Then the GHK peptide goes through the P system and activates the stem cells directly through that system. Now, I think that the question that I'm trying they're asking is, does the stimulation of the stem cell cause a negative effect in other areas of the body? And I think a question that we have been asked a few times is, do the stem cells can worsen the possibility of developing cancer, or somebody who already has cancer or something like that? And the question is that there's no proof to this day that if you stimulate new stem cells, that they're going to develop or enhance the already damaged and degenerated stem cells that have developed into a cancer cell or some sort of a bad illness. I think, personally, my own opinion, I think all they could do is potentially help. with the entire situation. But there's no evidence that your stem cells that you're stimulating through the copper peptides will worsen your cancer or worsen your prognosis if you have a cancer issue or something like that. I'm not sure if that's really the question. I think the other way to take the question is, well, does that pathway of the cytochrome system stimulating the genes and then the stem cells, does that have cross pathways with other systems in the body? And I don't deny that it does. I mean, look at the entire coagulation cascade in our body, the whole way that we protect our bodies from bleeding profusely. And it's a cascade where right now medicines, drugs, things that we drink, things that we eat, certain supplements can alter and interfere with any one of those pathways and enhance it or being detrimental to that. So yeah, the body is an intricate network of cables and chemical pathways that could potentially interact with each other. But obviously the studies that have been done with Lifewave, they do not show any major problems with any of it. As a matter of fact, since we're in the subject, let's talk about the patients who have had organ transplants and who are on chemotherapy. To the best of my knowledge, it is not a contraindication, but it's a big warning that if you're having an organ transplant and or having chemotherapy, perhaps to use the patches is not the greatest idea because they cleanse your body, they detoxify your body, and all these medicines that are that influence your immune system could potentially be washed out and eliminated and not give you the protection against the new organ or even influence the result of the chemotherapy drug. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, that's perfect. That was a great explanation. I appreciate that. So I'm going to get a little bit more technical with you on the cardiology side, okay? Right. So someone said they recently had a CT cardiac calcium test and they received a score of 545. Her cardiologist said that she has the arteries of an 83-year-old and she's 53 years old. His approach would be to medicate with statins and says the calcium is irreversible. This person watched a testimony yesterday about the X39 and how they restored a chiropractor's heart health and atherosclerosis. Can you discuss this, please, from your experience with your clients? Obviously, you're not making any recommendations for this person because you're not their cardiologist, but have you had that situation before where someone's arteries were functioning as 83-year-old?
Well, you know, I think I personally do not use that terminology with patients. I think whether it's genetics, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's diet, you name it. If you have a lot of calcium in the arteries of your body, you could say that you have arteries of an 80-year-old. But the fact is that if you have a genetic predisposition to develop atherosclerosis, which is that inflammation that happens inside the arteries related to the deposits of cholesterol that filter the wall of the artery and then create this reaction, this inflammation. Now, we know that X39, X49, EON, they all help with endothelial protection. But do they really eliminate the whole process of atherosclerosis? I think that we need to look into it a little bit further, and we're trying to see if eventually that we could prove that. Do I think that it helps? I think if it helps with inflammation, I think if it helps with the whole autonomic nervous system, balancing nervous, reducing stress, reducing blood pressure, it should help with endothelial protection. So I think what the plan that was designed for this person with the statin drugs, perhaps even a blood thinner like aspirin, a better lifestyle is the way to go. If on top of that we want to use EON patch or X49, X39, why not? I think that it can only benefit you. If we believe that the X39 is going to regenerate and stimulate our stem cells, it should help us in some way or form. I personally I've been using it in a very selective way in some patients of mine who have peripheral vascular disease, where they are at the end of the road. There's nothing else that medically can be done. And I tell them, this is I could offer you this. You can try it for a period of 3 to 6 months and see, and we can all see if it helps or not. Also for memory, I have patients who have dementia, whether it's mild to moderate, and they have been on medicines for years and they're getting worse. And I said, try this. It can only help you. And you cannot imagine how many of those patients are already seeing a benefit. So I don't think it's a replacement, but I think it's an incredible. It's not a replacement today. I don't know what's going to be 10 years from now, but as of today, I think it's a great complement to our therapy in medicine, which I think is a wonderful thing.
I love that. I do too. I totally agree with that. It is something that you can use in complement. If you're on medications, we never recommend you stop any of your medications cold turkey, right? Check with your physician, let them know that you're using something, a non-transdermal patch. You would love to be able to reduce or maybe even eliminate medications if possible, and that he or she will work with you on that. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, Dr. Mario, because I know one of the things that you said in the beginning that the patches helped with were your issue with your foot. And so we're having some people ask about foot issues and about neuropathy. They must know you. I don't know. Or maybe they've heard your testimonial before, but they want to know what you would recommend for the tingling, numbing sensations in the bottom of their feet, or any type of foot issues, any type of, I don't know, things that go on with the feet where they hurt. Could you speak to that with what you used or how you patched? Because I remember at dinner, you talked about using the patch, maybe one on top of the other, and then you moved it side to side. What did you do? How did you do that?
I did all of that. All of the above. So, and they all work. I mean, I think, for example, in the foot, you have to realize that the fascia of the bottom of the foot, you could have different areas in the bottom of the foot that hurt. And I think you need to place the patches in the spots where you feel that the inflammation is more pronounced. And you can use the ice wave patches on the same foot if you need to. If you have them on both feet, then you can use white on the right and darker on the left. But if you have a problem on just one foot, you can use both of them in the same. And then you can use the white patch as the center, as where you have the highest point of inflammation and pain, and then move the other one accordingly around if you have some other areas as well. And as I said, just kind of experiment with that, but it helps. For plantar fasciitis, it definitely helps. For neuropathy, it also helps as well, without a doubt.
Perfect. And you used Ice Wave. Did you use any other patches on your feet specifically for your situation?
At the beginning, I used both. I used the Ice Wave patches, so for the plantar fasciitis and for the feet, I would recommend the Ice Wave patches without a doubt.
Okay.
But there's no, you use the X39 and it helps you. I haven't tried the Eon patch for the feet, but if it relieves inflammation, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
So earlier you were talking about from your neck down, you had so much pain in your body, right? The inflammation in the joints and things like that. So people are asking about that specific, what would you recommend? Obviously the X39, what would you recommend outside of that if they have all the inflammation and pain in their joints that we see common in people in their fingers and in their back and in, their elbows and things like that? My favorite patches for that are the X39, X49. Glutathione is also another great patch. It's a wonderful patch. And the Ice Wave is another two patches that are wonderful for any of that. In my case, since I developed herniated discs and lost the cartilage in a lot of my spaces in the spine, it was mostly related to my job. Mm.
So once I stopped doing what was hurting and exacerbating the problem, then I was able to, basically the pain kind of disappeared gradually. So then I was left with already the physical damage that have been done for years, and that is what I'm targeting now. And I can tell you that I am. It's incredible how much better I am. One thing that happens is that, you know, when we have the patches and we place it in an area where you have pain and you have inflammation, and it's the cause of inability to exercise or to move, and all of a sudden you start feeling so good that perhaps you may overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to remember that, and I'm not a good example of it. You have to remember that if you have a problem in a joint and you want some cartilage regeneration, we need to be patient. We need to be a patient. And we need to give the cartilage regeneration some time. It's not going to happen overnight. The fact that your pain went away is like taking a shot of a narcotic. The pain is gone or maybe improved, but the problem is still there. So you need to give it some time until it actually gets better before you really start being extremely active. And I am not a good example of it. Sorry. You know?
Well, I understand, you know, when you feel good, you're like, all right, I'm going to go out and do this. I'm going to run this mile, or I'm going to, you know, do this workout in the gym. And you're like, oh, wait, no, I'm not really better yet. I feel better. But that's why they always say consult with your physician before you start any kind of exercise program or anything like that, because you do want to make sure, not that you need to consult with necessarily a physician on that. I would with Dr. Mario because he's super fit. But you know, you want to look to people that are doing what they should be doing, right, to take care of themselves. So I agree. You got to take it slow. If you're feeling great, that's fantastic. Start with small things. You know, I love what David talks about with the 4-minute Tabatas. He brought that to our attention last year at conference, where just 4 minutes a day, you can go to YouTube, you can type in senior citizen Tabatas, over 60 Tabatas, or, you know, you can start with the young age, depending on what your age is, but just 4 minutes a day doing some kind of exercise or movement to get your body into that habit, going for a small walk, or obviously like Colonel Tom, swimming in the pool, right? Getting the body movement where there's zero gravity in there, you know, you have nothing, you know, to fight against. So doing things in the pool is an excellent way to help get your body used to movement and mobility if you haven't yet, and not have a lot of pressure. So Dr. Mario, somebody's asking about their family member has low blood pressure, but high heart rates. Do you see that often? What would you
suggest? Matter of fact, we see that in especially in patients with neurological disorders like Parkinson's disease. Mm-hmm. And I again, we're with the clearance of the neurologist, I have been using some X39 patches, glutathione, carnosine patch, on patients with Parkinson's. Again, I have just a very few, about 3 or 4. If these patches are going to work, it's going to be long term, probably 3 months, 6 months. But so far, I've been getting some favorable results, which are also approved by the neurologist. So the neurologist may give them their own treatment, and I'm recommending, for example, for these patients who may have issues with the blood pressure and the heart rate, I think the EON patch would be a great patch to use. As I said earlier, the EON patch balances the autonomic nervous system, that is the sympathetic, and the parasympathetic, that is the nervous system that excites you and the nervous system that brings you down. So the upper and the downer, they kind of balance each other, and they also affect the heart rate as well. So I think that would be, besides from the X39, I would definitely use the EON patch and see how that works for the patients.
Wonderful, thank you. So someone wants to know if you have to use these patches for life to maintain the pain relief.
I think what I tell the patients is a matter of trying it. If you have a temporary inflammation that goes away after 3 months, 6 months, then you can try stopping the patch after a while. But for patients who have an actual anatomical problem, like lack of disc, bone on bone, that you may have, unless you start growing cartilage, which is one of the things that I'm hoping that is happening with my hip, that I'm growing cartilage because I feel better, a lot better. But I'm giving it time. I do need to give it time. And as I said, if I was just kind of doing regular activities, not getting on the treadmill and riding the bicycle and swimming and doing this and doing that and being on my feet all day long, I think that I would have improved cartilage regeneration by now. But I think I'm improving, but also kind of not allowing the cartilage to regenerate as quickly as it should.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it all depends on how you feel. If you feel good after 3 months, after 6 months, and you want to stop the patches, go ahead and stop them and see how you feel. But I think if you have a problem, a chronic problem, mechanical problem, bone on bone, and you don't get enough cartilage regeneration, that you may need to use the patches for a longer period of time, for as long as that may take. And again, remember that there's people that respond very quickly, people that respond in a few weeks to months, and people that may take a little longer time to respond, like patients with neurological disorders or chronic illnesses like arthritis and things like that.
You know, I always tell people, Dr. Mario, just stop patching whenever you want to start aging again.
You know something? That's a great comment.
I'm here for the reverse aging. I am here for prevention and vitality and longevity. Like I said, we're going to be 200 years old talking about this stuff, living our best lives, traveling the world, feeling and looking amazing, because that's the power of stem cells, right? And so the way I look at this, just how we discussed, nutrition is our foundation, right? We detox, we exercise, we pray, we meditate, we do connection to nature. And, you know, we take the time to do the basic core principles and practices. And this is a tool in our toolbox that is just unbelievable. So for me, the price of a cup of coffee a day, I'm all in, right? For my longevity game. And I'm going to use the patch until. So I don't ever feel like there's a stopping point. But I also don't feel like there's a stopping point to my exercise routine. There's not a stopping point to my healthy diet. There's not a stopping point to my prayer and meditation time. You know, those are things that will always be. And there's not a stopping point to other things in my life. I love essential oils, right? I love my herbs, and, you know, I love whole, you know, fresh plants, and I grow my own herbs and things like that. So there's not a stopping point to that for me. So I think sometimes for people, they're looking for that quick fix. Like, how long do I have to use this before I'm fixed, so then I can quit using it, so then I can go back to my lifestyle and do the things I wanted to do, and then just, you know, everything, right? Sometimes that happens, and not always, but I do want to make sure that, you know, we mentioned that this is part of that, but this is also a super affordable and non-invasive way, and a way that doesn't have all the side effects and complications and things like that. Now, I'm going to jump over here because we've got more questions. I'm just zigzagging around. But to kind of piggyback off that, you know, you talked about people that have had organ transplants or people that are on chemotherapy. Obviously, we don't have clinical studies with any diseases. We don't have clinical studies with organ transplants. We know that with chemotherapy, it kills everything. Like, what's the point of putting a patch on if you're getting chemotherapy today? It's just going to kill it all, right? That's what it does, unfortunately. And there's much better alternatives out there than that. But we're not going to get into all of that. But someone specifically asked about, and I don't know these medicines because I don't use them, obviously, but Brilinta, Brillinta, and Entresto. So she wanted to ask, we know that we have been told by David that there are no contraindications with any medications, anything that your supplements, nutrients, things like that, because this is not working in that way. We're not ingesting something, trying to digest, assimilate, absorb a product or whatever, right? This is working at the speed of the light in our body, signaling peptides. So do you know what those drugs are, or would you say as a doctor, you have used or recommended those for people, and are we okay to patch?
Yes, you're okay to patch. Brilinta works on the platelets in the body, and as far as I'm concerned, none of the patches affect the platelet function in the body. the patches that we have that reduce inflammation and fibrinogen may help actually the effect of Brilinta, but it will not counter the effect of Brilinta. Then Entresto is a combination of two medicines. Both of them work on the angiotensin renin system, which is a complicated system that also is a promoter of hypertension. But when you take a medicine like Entresto, if you have heart failure and weak heart muscles, is the kind of medicine that could help you improve outcomes for heart failure and improve heart function as well. So I do not believe at all that these patches affect any one of the cardiac medicines, to be honest with you. None of them. And patients have asked me that question before. I do not believe there's any contraindication. I don't.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I would say too. So besides immunosuppressant drugs that are used to help the body not reject a foreign organ, otherwise you're good to go with the medications. And of course, again, like we said in the beginning, we are not your doctors, right? Dr. Mario is not your cardiologist. He's not your doctor, except for Colonel Tom on here. So otherwise, check with your doctor if you are on medications or if you're taking any type of supplements or nutrients that you have questions about. This is a non-transdermal patch. Take them the information from startx39now.com. Take them the clinical studies, the story of Lifewave, the 52-page PDF, and let them take a look at it and see how this can not only help you, but also help their patients as well too. So someone was out. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead before I ask another question.
I saw a question about where to place the ice wave patches.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if that question was answered with the plantar fasciitis question too, or
I think it was. Yeah, I'm scrolling down through to make sure that we're getting. If you didn't answer it, if you did, I scroll past it, and if not, then some people were commenting underneath on locations and things like that too. So, could someone benefit from the patches with heart palpitations and high blood pressure? We did discuss that as well too. X3949, we can see reduction in blood pressure in just 60 days. So that's huge too.
Weight loss too. Higher range, a faster rate of weight loss with the combination of X39 and X49, about 11% of less body fat with the combination of both.
Yes, agreed. Totally. We see 11% body fat reduction in just 60 days.
Yes. In
our clinical studies. So lots of great benefits. All right. Let's see. What's your opinion on doubling up on Eon? Do you feel like that is needed, necessary, beneficial?
That's a great question, and I do not have an answer. But all I can tell you is that if you want to try it, go for it. And see what you have. We'll see what you feel. I don't have a problem with you trying it. As I said, we all react different to patches and to medical situations, and there's nothing wrong with experimenting with the patches at all. I mean, I'm hoping that in the long run, that probably the number of patches that I use on myself will diminish as I repair, detoxify my body, and hopefully get younger. I think I'm getting younger.
You are getting younger. I need a new picture of you for the invite. I did that invite the other day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you look so different in the last, what's it been, like 7-8 months than you did in that picture you sent me. I need a new picture. So I definitely need to get that. Okay, so they are asking, is, like you said, advantage of extra X39s, extra Eons, extra X49s. And David always says there's about a 20%, thank you, Jenny, for answering that. There's about a 20% improvement, or increase if you use a second patch. So not really warranting the extra cost, right? If you're looking at 100% and you're only getting 20%, it's not really worth it. But if you have an acute injury, an acute issue, like my son when he sprained his ankle or when he split his lip wide open and needed stitches, instead of that, we patched. And we patched with 2 or 3 of the X39 Eon and carnosine. So if you have an acute injury, what are your thoughts on that in that small situation, upping the patch just for a few days, 3, 7, 5 days?
I can tell you something. The few patients that I have had that I have treated with wounds or bruises or falls and inflammation and etc., I just use the X39, and usually it's enough to both reduce the inflammation, the discoloration, and improve the healing process of the wound. It is absolutely amazing. Now, if you want to, if the X39 is not enough for the pain, then you can also use the you can use the ice wave if you want to use the ice wave if they're having a lot of pain. But I think with the X39, you should be in good shape. The 99.9% of it, there's only one patient so far in my practice, actually two patients that I have recommended 2 patches. And one of them, I recommended to use 2 X39 because I really think that the patient needed it. And you know, it's funny, I put him on the 2 patches, one in the right leg and one on the left, because the circulation of his legs was so horrible. He was already getting toes amputated and whatnot. And he came to bring me some patches that I let him have a few weeks ago, a couple of envelopes that I let him borrow. And I could not believe his legs, how good they looked.
Wow.
So it may have been an overkill on my part, but I think the guy needed it. I think the patient needed it. So is he gonna need both patches in the long run? Probably not. But I told him, you know something, you stay with the 2 patches for now. It's working. Let's just reevaluate your circulation in, let's say, 6 months from now. If the circulation is improving, it's because we may be regenerating new blood vessels or increasing the circulation through the vessels, through the arteries that we already have there.
I love that. Okay, so on the X39 and 49, we mentioned that it lowers systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So obviously I've used those patches, you use those patches, and I have a naturally low blood pressure. My blood pressure is like in check, always has been my whole life. I'm sure yours is as well too. So if someone has low blood pressure, it's not going to bottom them out, correct? It hasn't bottomed me out. It hasn't bottomed you out. It's about balance. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and the other thing, the following, remember, blood pressure is, there's 2 things that are very important for blood pressure. Are we hydrated? Are we hydrated enough? Or are we doing something, or are we taking something that is affecting the blood pressure?
Yeah.
So let's think about that. But hydration is very important for blood pressure.
Yeah.
But no, I believe that none of the patches, I'm pretty sure none of the patches should bottom out your blood pressure.
No. Half your body weight in ounces in water is your goal for the day. Make sure you get a little pinch of Pink's Himalayan sea salt or Celtic sea salt. Get your electrolytes in. We're not talking about Gatorade, but make sure that you are staying hydrated and getting your electrolytes. We have to have cellular communication, right? And those cells need the magnesium, the potassium, the sodium, the ratios to be right. And when you look at blood pressure, a lot of times we look at what potassium sodium ratio, right? And so lots of factors there, but yet lots of great benefits of using these patches and staying hydrated and using healthy practices. I love that you brought that up as well too, because you know I'm passionate about that. So thank you so much for being on here, Dr. Mario. You answered so many questions. I'm so grateful. Normally we do more like a 20-30 minute science and tech, and we just jumped right in at 10 minutes answering questions. So they got a super special treat because they got 40 minutes of questions answered. So man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I love you to pieces. I'm so grateful for you and the time that you took to be here tonight to help everyone. It's very appreciated.
My pleasure. You can count with me anytime that you want to bring me your program. I'll be happy to be here.
I definitely will have you back. You know that. I'm so grateful. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes. And can I finish with my usual finish here?
Yeah.
Thank you, Colonel Tom, for introducing me to the Lifewave patches. Thank you, Dr. Stacy and Laura Balzer, for being so helpful with this, with all the teaching me how to get involved with this and I've learned so much. It's incredible. I have a lot more to learn. I'm looking forward to learning more. And ultimately, my angel over there, Sharon Arnold from Indianapolis, who's my angel, and she's the one who makes all the patches get to all of our patients, and I can rely on her 24/7, and she's wonderful. So thank you very much.
We love you so much. We're so grateful for you. Thank you, Dr. Mario. Thank you, everyone, for being on here tonight. Of course, I'll get the recording on my YouTube as soon as it converts, and you guys can start sharing it. Thank you, Dr. Mario.